Our top story, China's warning that Syria faces even more bloodshed if the West helps unleash military intervention. And it signalled that abandoning the UN peace plan could push the country into a full-scale war. Voices are growing in some Arab and Western nations for armed action to force regime change after the civilian slaughter in Houla. But as Maria Finoshina reports now, recent incursions set dangerous precedents.
10 days after the terrible massacre in the Syrian city of Houla, the world is still watching to see how this tipping point will shape the crisis. While there is still at least some hope of a peaceful solution, many analysts believe those hopes are fading fast.
The American, British and French push for military intervention in Syria is absolutely enormous. We've seen Hague, of course, William Hague, the British Foreign Secretary, calling for intervention. We've seen the new French president saying the same thing, the Americans obviously taking the lead.
The spectre of a military solution has returned after the Syrian regime was condemned internationally for the death of 108 people, half of whom were children, before an investigation into who was responsible was even launched.
They're all saying that the Assad regime is committing human rights abuses, and they repeat this message obsessively. I'm confident to predict that indeed it will remain fixed in people's minds and could well be used as a pretext.
And you don't have to look back too far to see where hasty judgments saw a rush to take up arms.
By the Kosovo War in 1999, it's exactly what happened. You had an allegation of a massacre, which was the village of Rachak. You had a UN inquiry that was severely bullied by the U.S. ambassador that was leading the observation mission on the ground. You had claims that it was a brutal, unprovoked massacre of innocent civilians by government troops. Serbia was blamed, presented with an ultimatum in Rambouillet, and then bombed.
Back then, the Yugoslavian government, just like the Syrian one now, condemned militants for the killings, in this case blaming Albanian separatists from the Kosovo Liberation Army. An investigation was launched to find out whether the victims were innocent civilians, as the international community claimed, or whether the country's army had been battling professional fighters. 2 out of 3 forensic inquiries proved most of the casualties died in combat. The third report by an EU team has never been made public.
Interestingly enough, over the past couple of weeks, there have been reports of Syrian rebels, whoever they are, liaising with the, I think, Albanian Kosovo Liberation Army, the people who were basically the agents of NATO in the Kosovo War, basically training on, I don't know, they were saying they were training in democracy and human rights, but technically the only training that the KLA could have ever given anybody is how to fake a massacre in order to stage a war. And I believe that's exactly what's happening now.
But even with hindsight, after the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, or even the alliance's airstrikes in Libya last year, history isn't being prevented from repeating itself again and again. When these disturbing images from the Syrian village of Houla made world headlines, everybody agreed those who are guilty must be punished. But the reaction from the international community has been so swift and so coordinated, the risk is that punishment will come before even those who are truly responsible are exposed. And that could mean not just a loss of justice, but also a huge loss of life. Maria Finoshina, RT, Moscow.